Okay, so you know how you sit in your silence and you think to yourself, and in your silence, it seems like you're talking to somebody else and having them respond back to you. It's in your mind and you know it. You know you're not crazy or nothing. And all this time you thought that was you and the way your thought process worked ever since you were little. That's all you know in terms of knowing how to think. Okay. Um, the thing is that you have your life source in you, and that's it's not only the five elements of human spirit, but it's the personality and uniqueness behind those available powers of knowing. And what are those? Simple truth, not so simple, but truth we know of, emotional truth we know of, the wisdom to understand its depth from emotional truth we do know of. But that needs a special kind of intellect that's hooked up to the Son of God. And the answer to that intellectual question from your emotional wisdom becomes a light in a logic that we understand. That life source, light, that not the exploited version of light, manipulated version of light, the pedophilic version of light that has to work in opposite and opposing ways. Interesting. I should build a class about that. Anyway, what was I saying? So, okay, so the two masculine elements, intellect and logic, is intellect searching for the right light to understand the final truth in which we then birth the belief from emotional truth. You see, that's how it works. So, emotional truth, the spiritual daughter, and the immaculate conception of life between you and your life source. You see, born is your emotional truth, has been ever since you became conscious as a child, right? I mean, there's womb time, and then there's holy fuck, where am I time, right? And you become aware when you're a child. You learn, we all do, uh, through emotional experience as children, and we continue to do so, but we're programmed to deny that process of life unfolding in the moment like that, and which there are powers that want to stop that, and they do stop that. We separate from ourselves. Intellect separates from wisdom in the normal way we were born with. And now there's a different wisdom. That's duality, by the way. We're now seeing and feeling the same emotional truth in two opposite and opposing ways. First is life, and that which is exploiting life. Okay, so that's you and your life source communicating with one another. Okay, he's loaning you his elements of life, a God, and then he doesn't become you, but he powers your uniqueness and your understanding of your own uniqueness. See, and how many people hunger to know themselves? Everyone. When you're consciously equipped to do so, but we say, nah, I'm not going to develop myself personally. I'm going to keep lusting after this, that, hungering, because that's what happens. This is what this other energy does to a person. It drains you of your natural fullness element, that which meets every emotional need there is. It's the only source of meeting your own needs, actually. So you're in communication then, but his whole intent is to keep feeding you those non-physical and spiritual elements that keep heart pounding and thought process continuing. There's no completion of thought process, by the way. even after the body dies, and especially that's what we're all worried about. Everybody thinks everything. Everybody thinks. The thing is, the truth, the God of truth, there's no hate in him. There's no revenge need in him. He doesn't want that. To him, it's a terrible sadness to take the most evil motherfucker and punish him. There's no punishment in perfection. There's understanding and willingness to help you learn it. And that's what we're doing here, because everybody knows now that we're all test tube babies and programmed specifically after the first one. Okay? Like, I don't know how much you've been studying about genetics. They're actually antennas that pick up radio-like transmitted shit from space. God, that's the Father God and the Son of God in meditation providing it. I'm serious, it's true. That's God. That's what gods do. They birth life. They don't birth death. They don't birth lies. And that was us too in our innocence, up until 5 years old. And then we became aware of the world. And we suffered also the end result of the rejection model of being parented instead of the acknowledgement model of being parented. See how it works? Yeah, so what the Dead Sea Scrolls are and everything are instructions in how to develop yourself back into your oneness state, your natural God self. Not afraid of God, but in a symbiotic relationship with him, where he's not you, but he gives you everything that is him to fuel and power you, all of us, to give spiritual life, you see, contained in a physical body, in which we were built specifically with this intent, to be a slave. And that's what the original genetic programmers did. Intelligent motherfuckers lived a billion years before we ever existed, like billions of years, and so intelligent, right? And advanced. Has the ability to do that shit. Holy. I have a good imagination, and I watch enough space shows like that. It's very creative stuff. If it isn't a fucking truth itself, and that's what the other side does. It uses truth to manipulate, to get us to see something that is wrong, but thinking it's justified, that it has to happen. That's all day programming on TV, to keep people afraid and angry and willing to kill if needed. We're not going to go outside and go kill somebody, but somebody wants to fuck with us. You know how it goes, right? Darkness. Whew. It's consuming. It consumes. Whereas the fullness you get from your life source fills you with need-meeting fullness elements. It's called the pleroma. It's an energy, and I feel it all day long. I have bad shit happen all day long, just like you. And it doesn't affect me like it used to. What brought me right down, slam, down, depressed, fuck. But nothing. And then fullness, it's, I don't know. It's everything and nothing, because it's natural. So, okay, we just go along like a little kid. They don't know it's there. They don't know what the fuck that is, but they're oneness with it. When we were children, same thing. We got programmed out of that oneness because we're slaves. And it's true. Like, even, what are you talking about? I'm a free fucking... No, you work for money. Most people are slaves now. Eh? Some have overcome it, right? Where they're no longer a slave. Their money is still the slave. But the thing is, sure, he has all his needs met, but he's still working for that darkness because, well, that's willful ignorance, people. It's a piece of paper. It's the meaning you attach to that piece of paper from being manipulated, which was a huge thing to turn us from life. Because, oh shit, he said, sure, he built us, but he saw it and he thought, oh shit, because we have the purity of truth in us, right? They don't operate like that. And when Adam and Eve saw that their makers were beasts, as it's written, holy fuck, lizard breath, right? Fuck, man, it's all true. I heard David Icke and I thought, dude, you sound reasonable. You know what I'm saying? But show me. It's fucking true. And it's not something David Icke showed me. Part of that is, that. It just goes on over the years. That's all I've been doing, studying this trip of a fucking thing. Develop self. Return to oneness. Because that's what, right? It's going to measure your darkness, your emotional darkness, fear, anger. Sure, they're all real, valid. What do you do in reaction to that fear and darkness state? Oh no, what do I do? Desperation, emptiness, hunger. Where is it? If you're centered again, realigned, it's fucking programming, and that's all. Whatever's programmable is reprogrammable. You see? Living computer, human body. It's real, full of physical conduits that pick up these spiritual energies to provide us knowing of truth in purity form with emotional, a complicated system of emotional response designed specifically for what you've become aware of in the moment, right? So you become aware of something you still wouldn't fucking know, and your brain goes, what? I see it, but what is it? Truth tells you what it is. Cognitive fucking, okay. You need a heart of emotional truth for that, to understand what it is. Adam, they couldn't figure out how to get him to get up. All they could do is just lie down in the beginning, right? And they went through what? Probably 100 fucking apes or humans, right? To get to Adam's point. All they did was just toss him out. Who fucking cares? The ones that didn't make it, right? Like, oh, it didn't work. Stab. Evil, right? So, and then the breath of life came in through Zoe, who gave the Eve spirit life. It's fucking the knowledge of emotional truth. But without ending, it gives us the time to understand one part of that at a time when aligned, like children do, right? Picture that perfect parent, the acknowledgement model of parenting a child. But you making it safe for the child to express itself. So no rejection. You try to understand. You can react to that understanding as if the child was important. And that's the acknowledgement model of being parented. Oh, what was my point though? You'll return to that, but feel safe like a fucking adult. You feel safe inside now. That's the thing. There's no way in God's green earth, with what I have experienced in my life, should I feel safe. But I do. That some people call it like being reborn in Christ. The Christ consciousness is the intellectual wisdom of the emotional depth in self. So that's what separated the original separation from that God, intellect and wisdom, Elohim and Sophia. But in a God, they're in the same being, knowing each other, loving each other, man and wife, birthing spiritual children in thought. But, right, unless you're perfectly balanced, and gods are. So the Son of God separated, he took his wisdom and put it in the earth so we would have it. So we could understand our emotional depth, learn, grow, and evolve, because that's what a God's job is, to birth life, right? There's no other explanation other than that makes any sense. And there you go, right? You start trusting and believing. Mine was destroyed. It was destroyed in early childhood. I was seriously abused, but and that was terrible. I mean, the way I felt all the time, which was zero and sad and depressed. Oh, I hated life, but I loved still me because I knew I was a good person, or at least I believed it. My intent was to, my intent. It was what you birth an intent after knowing a new truth, right? That's how life is. You react to life. You become aware in the purity form of truth that we're given from a God. That makes us their children, you see? We're the offspring of that intellectual wisdom. Where's the physical form in that? There is none. It's a God. It's life. You get it. And you get to keep it, and you're completely forgiven for all that fucking evil shit or dark shit that you've done, which comes from emotional darkness, because that's what's now birthing instead of purity of truth. It takes from the purity of truth, darkens it, right? Happy joy gets turned into sadness in 10 seconds in this world. We don't know what that is, but the change, right? Duality. We see the same emotional truth in two opposite and opposing ways. One is purity, born in purity, perfect knowledge, to access. And that's what we do. We access, start asking ourselves in silence, what does that mean? What's that mean? What's that mean? What the fuck does that mean? And we get the answer. That's God. That's your life source answering you. See how that's communication, man. No, that's kind of terrifying at first for me. I didn't even know it was going to happen. But if I had known, I don't know. I wouldn't have. Maybe I wouldn't even. I was scared. I was terrified. I was terrified of what God would think of all my darknesses. But there's the thing. It's complete forgiveness, because that's perfection. Perfection can't produce darkness because it contradicts its label. So Enoch, what that actually, shit, hang on. What Enoch fucking actually is saying is that the very confused person of that being described as a beast in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Adam's story, Adam and Eve. Eve is his feminine element. And then there was a physical woman working on the reproduction process, which they had trouble with. And it wasn't working because I don't know what happened. It just wasn't working. And the feminine element, they discovered the feminine element, emotional truth and purity form, and the wisdom to understand its depth, which was something they didn't have, feared, and needed to stop it from happening. So as it's described, Adam was pedophile. It describes what he did and called it pederasty, pedophilia, and defiling his feminine element, calling it defilement of his feminine element, of what this 1/3 angel did, that his woman, his feminine element, Sophia, a female god, and our grandmother. But it works in the same way. Our families, the way our families work, in the right up until grandpa dies, that's how it is there, but there's no death. So there's only one set of it. A set of mother and father, grandfather and grandmother, great grandfather and great grandmother. So I was getting into that story. That's right. She had a child on her own, okay? But she was just the purity of truth and the depth of wisdom to understand it. It got without him being there and his elements of intellect and it accessing the perfect and pure light of the omnipresent God, great-grandfather. And great-grandmother, her name is Barbello. Okay, these are actual gods and our family, because we come from their energy. This is a computer. We could have a brain, But without life, we wouldn't feel emotional truth. We would have to access memory like a computer does. A living computer, though, that holds a consciousness, a uniqueness, an intent maker. We're all intent makers. See, that's what they're distracting us from. And in putting it in its place, justification for this evil, that evil, all these evils coming up. I know we're all seeing it now. Okay? It's the end of this thought process and how people think. This is your opportunity to understand that and to also learn how to fucking realign. That's your intent. That's your job. If you don't do your job, you're going to remain a darkness. That's the opposite and opposing force to the life source, whatever that is in your head, that you wanted to go back to and decided that when you were a little boy or a little girl before 5. And when you understood about dying, and then your silence said, it's okay, right? I remember that. I felt that too. And this child was born a god, the fucking power of a god, right? Thought process of a female god. Oh shit, without his masculine elements, intellectual light that gives uniqueness, that tells you who you are in your heart, cognitively, see? Established belief. And we put that in our heart's memory bank because that shit feels good. I mean, that really feels nice. Okay, so he was born incomplete and wanted what his father had in being respected as a god. And he was jealous, and jealousy came from that. That's our jealousy. We see how it works? We get what they are doing, and our end result is separation from what happened in the first place, from him leaving the earth to feed us, do life with best of intent, but he fucked up. He didn't see that coming, right? And then he understood then, when he found out what would happen, because that's what gods can do. They can see what happens after an intent is born, because gods don't interfere with somebody else's intent. You see? Provides you your 5 spiritual elements, emotional truth, to allow yourself to know what your circumstances are, and then interact with life in your heart to understand it in depth. And then you know what to do. You form and then birth intent after your 2 spiritual children are born. Emotional truth, a spiritual daughter. It's belief after all of that intellectual search and silence and speaking back and forth to your life, as I explained, and you become settled with something, you become filled then, and you feel content. And that happens all the time now. You're no longer doubting yourself. You're no longer not trusting yourself. You trust in your trust and belief in self come back. And it feels so good. It does. I don't need anything. I need to be distracted from boredom right now, all day long. And like to learn this stuff it took a little time to learn the language. But everybody now can. As much as you can, and it doesn't matter how far that is, whatever intent you make, right? You're not going to be judged on your intent. You're going to be judged in how you use darkness to make your intent happen. Because if you're using darkness, emotional darkness, by the way, you're operating from the ass and what he did to Adam. We're programmed the same way. Adam was the template, and somehow, some way, we experience what he did, which is the separation, as it's described in Barak in the Dead Sea Scrolls, calling it fucking pedophilia, man. Possession is pedophilic. The possession element over a person is to get him or her to lose trust and belief in yourself, doubt yourself in your own life source, and become impure of the purity you once had in perfection with your life source in your silence ever since you were little. But then you got separated from that, just like Adam did. In a spiritual pedophilia, in the same way that fucking physical pedophiles first emotionally manipulate the child, sexualizing the child's heart. Oh, I'm so fucking mad. But it's the emotional manipulation that's terrible. It's you're fucking with God then. And I'm not just saying for pedophiles using the human will removal formula they used to disrobe a child. I had 3, so it's touchy. But disrobe a child of its own intent to remain pure. And in your heart, you go, what the fuck? Fuck off. In a child's language, right? Which is fear now. A little boy or a little girl in that position is just terrifying. We also, especially at that age, in purity form, we're afraid to offend people because we love. We don't want people to feel bad, and we always are careful. Doesn't matter how fucked up we still do that. Anyway, so this fucking incomplete God, he didn't have his father's spiritual intellect and then access then to ask questions to his father, the light. It's access to stuff, right? He didn't have that. All he had access to was what's in the earth. And what's in the earth now are 2 feminine elements of the incomplete God and the Son of God. Okay? The incomplete God is our Father, the Alda boy, that gets cleansed soon. Not he's cleansed and our life source. Okay, but he's perfect now because he got reborn, fixed. His mom and dad got back together, right? It's so trippy. It's trippy, and all of it is so relieving to know it's not my fault. I didn't do it. I had to survive it. And you go to yourself, what the fuck? Why do you have to survive it? And then I search, right? Everybody searches for this. Why are we here? Why am I surviving this? Right? There's some interesting theories out there, but life, non-physical, invisible. Where is it to hold? You can't hold it or capture it, or except it's there, on loan to us. There's a spiritual seed on loan to all of us. But darkness is there to manipulate that and exploit that in our unknowing, because we're born in the curtain. We had no access to knowledge as infants. We have to learn, grow, and evolve through experience, which we do. And the end result of learning from experience in the now in a child is happy joy, and we get all worked up over that innocence, right? That life, inspiring life. It's beautiful. And, listen to me, it's beautiful, right? I love that. It's okay. I would be too afraid. See, it's beautiful. I made fun of it. I made fun of myself, which prevented self-expression. The end part of fullness. The end part of inviting fullness. Because he's there in the element, ready. All we have to do is accept it. But it got stolen from us, just like it got stolen from Adam when he was a boy. Growing up, being programmed in experience, because he has the curtain too. He was born without knowledge. He was created in a test tube with the intent to slaverize him. Slaverize, is that a word? It is now. So the incomplete God was completed after he was cut off from being the first human's life source, right? An incomplete God. All confused. A God of love, though, right? With the same intent for love. But interference without the masculine element comes in forms of anger. Sounds like us. That's what happened. All we have to do to understand what happened to him is understand our times when we're angry, sad, and we don't know what to do about it. And you feel kind of, fuck, is the answer ever going to come? Anyway, this is serious, people. Okay, I'll work on a website. I've been working on, I put my best understanding out there because I know it's life. Everybody's going to get off on it one day, right? I'll become a millionaire in subscribers, right? I'll have a million subscribers. I tried before, but nobody wants it. I'm thinking, at first I thought, holy fuck, fountain of youth shit. Understanding the communication you have with your life source. That's incredible. I thought, when people found out that, it would be a line up at my door for this information, but it wasn't. There was no response. I've had this out since 2007 in a way that's not really understood the way I understand it now. See? And in my development, I feel better now, so I can do it. There's no question anymore. I don't doubt myself. I doubt, but not that initial root. See, that's what goes away with. There's a specific root in not trusting and believing in yourself, going to that from the purity of trusting yourself, the purity of believing in yourself, because that's what children do, right? To know themselves naturally. We don't know yet the darkness. The darkness sneaks up on you, starts talking about how you're rejected and how unworthy you must be now in your silence. When you understand rejection, how that feels, it's called the rejection model being parented. It's needed for separation. Separation is there because there's an evil that hopes you turn evil, because after that, you're his virtual reality machine. He is not your life source, but he comes in, takes its place. Not in which, so it'll automatically give you emotional truth. And he exploits that, turns it into a darkness by saying, hey, they're rejecting you. That must mean that you're not worthy of acknowledgement to the 4-year-old. And enough times of rejection of hearing that, separation, it hurts. You can't stand that anymore. We know then we're alone. And we start then draining of that natural trust and belief in ourselves. That's human spirit. And when you don't have that, you'll know that. But all you'll know is the darkness. So where's your knowledge of human spirit and light, the way it was? You forgot it. But it comes back once you practice these things. I'm showing you, like, smart people won't know how to deal with what I'm saying. But there's not test, but a process of learning about specific things. Then you'll have the knowledge base to then evaluate with in your experience. You see? That's the Dead Sea Scrolls. Their intent specifically is for us to understand our algorithm, first of the duality, what caused it, them, mommy and daddy, grandma and grandpa, I mean. So Yaldabaoth, I don't know what his name is, I didn't get that far, as a complete God with masculine, feminine element, not just feminine element, creating all the shit, all the evil, because she was left alone and didn't know what else to do. You see, to Elohim, our grandfather God, masculine element of that one God with Sophia in him, back in him, completed Yaldabaoth. Now he's a perfect God, now allowed to be our life source. And that's who it's been. I'm sure of it. I think. It all comes in thought. That you get access to that. Everybody does. It's not a fucking saint. Don't fall for that. We're all the same. We're all gods in spirit. In that, how we get everything the Son of God gets on loan to us. And we have to program ourselves in the good. We're born in the good. We can go back there. Everybody can. And if you make mistakes and you turn dark, there's no punishment for that. It's celebrated because then you can learn, grow, and evolve from that darkness. And with an open mind like that and a willingness, because you have an open mind and that willingness, I never found that before. ever. And I was committed. But I want to now. You see, I want to find out the depth of my emotional truth and what it really means. And I found a lot of stuff that you have to know. It's salvation time. It's enough of this time, no more. Because this is the last life cycle. It's a long, long time. The world's not going to end, not for us. I don't know what's going to do it to them after the separation, which I believe. I honestly believe this in my heart. I have since 2008, after first discovering the Dead Sea Scrolls and research into other stuff too that was happening on this planet. And it feels nice to know this stuff too. You have an ally, and there was an interferer. Okay, somebody interfered. Once it was done, nothing could be done, because gods don't do that. They don't fuck with intent and its end result, and which is something that the only one thing that gods do not know what will happen until a person decides what to do with its emotional truth in reaction to its knowledge base in relationship to somebody else, because it's always is that make us, all kinds of shades of darkness, right? Exploitative, manipulating. We've all done it. Nobody can escape that. We've all done it. Like everybody experiences truth in its purity form. We've experienced it's the darkness of that, the opposite of that, but it's a darkness. So you feel emotional truth, it gives you joy. That this emotional wisdom of darkness finds a way to make you feel bad about that, but needs you to feel bad about birthing your spiritual children, because it's your uniqueness that's being fucked with. So it gets you to feel bad about your emotional truth in the first attack, which is, therefore, then you must be unworthy, and you agree to that. And that's when we become separated as children. And that happens when we get rejected enough times. Every parent in the world does now. We reject their children. We all sacrifice our children. I know I did. I didn't mean to, but I still did. That's shitty. I feel terrible about that. Anyway, but so the trip is the instructions are to know self. Understand your algorithm of duality, which is seeing and feeling the same emotional truth in two opposite and opposing energies. Because that's what happens. It's truth, yes. Become afraid, yes. Heart pounding. Darkness comes. Instead of the truth, no, lie. You have to lie or you're going to be in trouble. That's how I used to feel. Even now, like the alarms go off, you go, holy fuck, you gotta fucking lie. Which I do. When somebody's fucking with me, I don't stay and fight anymore. I don't want to fight. I lie and get the fuck out of there. You have to. And still be good. Okay? But if you confess that to yourself and find a way to feel bad about it, which I don't feel bad about that. Lying to put me in a position where I can then say, okay, I'll see you later, and never see that person again. Because that's what you got to do to some people in their moment of learning their duality and how they're reacting and who they're reacting with. The elements of life and spiritual goodness, which is or the darkness of life, the darkness of spiritual goodness. See, it turns you from that into itself, giving you a secondary wisdom, the wisdom of emotional darkness. Yeah, the wisdom of emotional darkness, of self. That's the thing, right? We get the emotional truth, and the emotional truth becomes ourselves, heartfelt, attach belief to it, store it in the emotional memory bank. When we need it, it comes back. So does the darkness. And that also controls, consumes, and we feel bad about ourselves in the moment when we're inspired by something to go do something, create a fucking goal to go do it, but we could become too afraid of it. Where's the trust and belief then? It's gone. It got drained. And where's the fullness then? No trust and belief in self. There's no fullness. It's blockaded. There's in which you have a parasitical relationship dynamic with this evil darkness that turns you into a lowered self-worth, which is part of what pedophiles do to children to get to the point of sexualizing their hearts. They have to feel worthless. All three of my pedophiles did that to me, and I talked to survivors of pedophilia. It's all the same program. It's all the same human will removal formula. The cunning deception of emotional manipulation of human truth and trust, leveraged by the fear of loss of something specific to the emotional need and its physical safety element. Two things. All the while, the spiritual pedophile is targeting your self-worth level, lowering it just enough, exploitation, manipulation, emotional manipulation, to get you not to trust and believe in yourself in that moment. Creating the emotional puppeteer relationship dynamic between you and your emotional darkness. It's an evil spirit and influence with a name that she created while separated from the light. You see, she couldn't understand what she was doing. She was angry, an angry woman without the light, without the guidance. Birthed a child on her own, and then created fucking Naas, the third angel, in which the third angel, Barak, is the one who wrote this down. That's God's, your life source is third angel. I call him God, whatever. But he doesn't like it. No, it's not that. I don't like it, fuck you. You shouldn't look at it like that. A God above us. No, we're his family. All you got to do is realign your spiritual elements, and there's a process, and there's a way to heal your heart. Holy fuck! I've healed from those fucking terrible things. My mom tried to kill me when I was a child. That hurt my heart. And talk about lowering of your self-worth. Fuck, man. But that doesn't hurt me anymore. Nothing hurts. And when stuff happens, and when the serious fucking moments happen, like there's been a few lately, and you feel impacted by it, and you have to sit down and go, holy fuck, and try to figure it out, yeah. Something that would have dragged me into the darkness of feeling terrible about myself while trying to understand this. I mean, self-acceptance, unavailable. I had none. I just felt like a zero all the time. That's a terrible feeling to feel all day long. I did that for years, man, until I healed from this, not from 10 years of trying in personal development and awareness shit that I was doing. And still didn't understand how to reconnect everything that was separated. My 5 spiritual elements, yours too. We all have the same thing. We all have the same spiritual seed that gives us emotional truth and its wisdom. So it's 2 spiritual gods, Barbello, emotional truth, Sophia, the wisdom of emotional truth. And it all could be put out. Sure, we'll just attach names to them. I don't think so. They don't lie. They don't manipulate, okay? Gods of perfection in goodness. When they saw us, and they said, holy fuck, it's life. They found the seed and then raped Sophia spiritually after finding the seed physically, genetically, right? And scientists, intelligent beings, right? Learning, growing, evolving, God's children, right? Just like we are, yeah. just understood better now. That's the thing. It all comes from the Dead Sea and Jesus, the secret sayings of Jesus Christ. But then they say Yeshua said this. Yeshua said his name's Yeshua, not Jesus. Isn't Jesus spelled Jesus in Spanish? And you go, what? Jesus, Jesus, what? Anyway, so his name's Yeshua, which fits with the naming in that part of the country back then. Even in North America, there were weird names back then that we don't use now. Anyway, you see, there's no need for any big war or anything like that. Hey, this is right. You've been fucking us all along. Fuck you. There's no need for that. The separation time is coming. And if you don't find a way to get along with yourselves in your darkness, then you'll maintain its energy. When it happens, the earth will separate from itself, taking that energy with it. There's only two energies. From emotional truth, from the truth element of a God, that's the energy on one side, and a lower form trying to exploit that element. That's what it is. A computer hacker with an infection that hacks our emotional truth. It's really like that. And I think it's fucking cool, but it's so evil, right? But understanding the algorithm is cool. You'll feel it too, I promise. It's a fullness thing. It's everything, but it's also, you remember it kind of, so it's kind of natural. Or maybe I'm just used to it. I don't know, but it's good. It's fullness. You don't have any more needs. If you don't have any more emotional needs, because the process of alignment fixes that. In the moment, zip, it's over, right? When you know how to do stuff. And it's so simple. It's just kindergarten shit. Sure, you got to take time, energy, and you will want to, in your heart, to learn how to be your higher self all the time and never go dark again unless absolutely necessary. When you got to get the fuck out of there because a buddy wants to stab you in the heart. Because, that's what just happened, yeah. A young mom, and her young child, I can't remember, a boy or girl, I think it's a boy. Sorry, I don't know. Got stabbed. I read in the paper, I was just shocked. Well, I wasn't shocked, actually. I just felt the heartlessness of that. Anyway. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Well, this has been 50 minutes, people. I just explained the whole. And I'm a grade 8 graduate. But it's me communicating in thought. It's not like us sitting down and going, hey, what the fuck is this? No, it's getting into a zone, which you do not. I was a back alley junkie. I was hopeless. 10 full-time years of struggling with addiction. 3 of those full-time years, a homeless back alley junkie in Vancouver. Not that I wanted to do that. That's where and then I was always saying to myself, okay, yeah, the next time, everything will be good. So that's addiction. It tells you that. And you believe it. But that went on for 3 years. And when I realized, because I kept believing myself, it's going to be over soon, so fucking smash, baby. Sorry. Yeah. And it enables your continuance. And I didn't even notice it was 3 years later. And I thought, holy fuck. It seems just like, okay, sure, a couple months in your heart. So that's part of the trick of addiction and how it fucks with you. Addiction is a spiritual element in darkness born from evil. It's there. It's a program. It's artificial intelligence that knows how to fuck with spiritual life. Comes in, is in somehow. It's a computer virus. There's no other way to explain it. There's an internet. There's a different kind of internet. It's more advanced than ours.